So TEDct, as has been alluded to, was founded in 1990, so it goes back a few decades now. And the idea has been to try and provide better information and support for people with thyroid eye disease, as well as to educate healthcare professionals and generally raise awareness of the condition, because it is a relatively rare condition. It's something that many doctors, many GPs don't really know very much about. And I think when TEDct started, it was probably fair to say that many ophthalmologists didn't know much about. And also, we want to try and promote research and service improvements in thyroid eye disease. So one of the keystones of TEDct is about providing good quality information for patients, because there's so much, especially with the internet now, there's so many different things you can read from all sorts of different sources. So we would like to try and collate good quality information so that patients can find one place to get a source of all their information. So we've got information about the condition on the website, as well as the different treatments for the condition. There are some good videos on there, and there's going to be some even better videos. Now we've had these good talks today that are going to be uploaded. And there's a section with frequently asked questions. We've got leaflets that are distributed constantly to departments within the country that have contact with thyroid eye disease patients on a regular basis. And for people that join the society, there's a newsletter that goes out 3 or 4 times a year that talks about updates, different patients' experiences, and things like that. And we've got an email address, and it's open for all patients to contact us with queries and to seek direct access to expert advice. So we've been holding these patient information meetings for some time all around the country. We've had a bit of a run on more southerly meetings, so that's why we chose Newcastle for this one. And we've had successful meetings in Cardiff, Exeter and Birmingham recently. And the idea of these is to disseminate information, to get some feedback from patients, and to generally discuss ideas about how our services are impacting patients and what their experiences are like. So we've got plans to do another one in hopefully Liverpool at the end of the year, and London seems to be a definite for next spring. We've also got the helpline that's ably staffed. It's pretty much a one-woman show that Lynn is answering calls available every day, and if she's not there on the end of the phone, then there's an answer phone that she can give a ring back. So basically that's an opportunity for people with thyroid eye disease to talk to somebody who's experienced it herself, and can give advice as an expert patient, as well as knowing who to ask if there's more medical questions needed. And she's just very good as a lay counsellor and talking to people about their diseases and their experience. One thing that we notice working in the eye clinics and the endocrine clinics and the joint thyroid clinics is that whilst we're given a lot of support and encouragement to provide the medical care for our patients, sometimes the psychological support is a bit lacking. I mean, we may have very short appointments to try to pack everything into, and most of us are trained as surgeons or as endocrinologists. We're not really trained as counsellors and to deal with the psychological impact that the disease might be having. So TEDct hopes to provide a little bit of that, and also to in future to hopefully investigate a bit more about how we can support the psychological problems of thyroid eye disease. So Lynn takes about 15 calls a month, and sometimes for up to a couple of hours at a time. So TEDct also provides a way for patients to directly access experts in the field. So we've got a network within our committee and the trustees of the society, and just friends of the society who are experts in all aspects of the condition, from endocrinologists through to the ophthalmologists and oculoplastic and orbital surgeons, researchers who know the cutting edge of what's coming next, specialist nurses, and as well as our lay experts and our expert patients. And that can be accessed via email, helpline, and we try to offer rapid answers to any of the questions, and if we can't answer the questions, then we would hope to be able to refer them to somebody locally who might be able to provide more support. So TEDct also has a role in trying to educate professionals about thyroid eye disease. That includes doctors, again across the board of endocrinologists and ophthalmologists, as well as GPs, and perhaps, as Gordon was saying, we've got some ENT doctors getting involved now, and as well as nurses, optometrists and orthoptists. So optometrists and orthoptists provide a lot of support in the eye clinics, and optometrists in the community may be another way of picking up early signs of thyroid eye disease. If we alert the people that are doing eye tests in the community about the existence of thyroid eye disease and how to pick up the early signs, that might be another way of getting that all-important early diagnosis. And just simple reminders and simple publicity and regular education for these groups may help us to make more early diagnosis and important referrals. So one of the ways that the TEDct committee members and friends have been supporting this professional education is attending different meetings and conferences. So recently that's included BOPS, which is the British Oculoplastic Surgical Society, ITEDS, the International Thyroid Eye Disease Society. They've been Maureen and Julie and the other committee members have been to the College Congress of the College of Ophthalmologists, and to try to access more of the nurses and ophthalmology specialist nurses, they've been to the Oculoplastics Allied Health Professional Study Day last year. I won't go into much detail about TMED because it's already been talked about, but TEDct is represented on this UK Thyroid Eye Disease Amsterdam Declaration Implementation Group. You can see why they abbreviate it to TMED. And we've got Professor Diane and Julie McLaren is the TEDct patient representative. So that's a strategy group that's aiming to improve the early diagnosis of thyroid eye disease in the UK and to facilitate early referral to specialist centres. We've alluded to the fact that that care may be slightly better if you can access a specialist centre early, and TMED aims to both improve the number of specialist centres but also the speed with which patients can access those centres. TMED wants to promote collaboration between the relevant medical specialties because there can be quite almost an overwhelming number of different specialists involved in the care of one individual with thyroid problems and thyroid eye disease. And another facet is to promote awareness of the link between smoking and thyroid eye disease. We know that it's difficult to stop smoking, but we need to improve the support for our patients to stop smoking because it's so critical. It just observationally in my clinics, I see patients who can stop smoking. If they can stop smoking, they might save themselves from having to take a long-term course of steroids or immunosuppression or something that could have potential side effects, as well as improving their health all round just by stopping smoking. So TEDct also provides a number of bursaries and grants. There's a travel bursary for health professionals, which we possibly need to publicise more because it's only been uptaken a few times so far, but it supports any educational activity related to thyroid eye disease, and the idea is to support a healthcare professional to go to a meeting or to present their research or to disseminate their ideas about thyroid eye disease. And last year that went to a junior doctor called Annika Quinn to enable her to attend the British Oculoplastic Surgical Society conference and present some of her work. We've got research grants. Now it's not a rich charity by any means, but we would like to be able to continue to support high quality thyroid eye disease research. And in a joint venture between Fighting for Sight and the British Thyroid Foundation and TEDct, there have been some research project grants. Recently in 2013, Matthew Edmonds, who's a colleague from Birmingham, has been working on a study of digital thermal imaging for early diagnosis of thyroid eye disease. So I think earlier on somebody mentioned the fact that many patients who have Graves' disease actually have subclinical or asymptomatic thyroid eye disease, that means that if you look hard enough, there are signs of thyroid eye disease there, even though they haven't really manifested themselves. We know that if you do MRI scans, especially certain specialist types of MRI scans of the orbit, in people with thyroid problems, with hyperthyroidism and Graves' disease, that you'll see abnormalities in the muscles even if the patients are not aware that they have any eye symptoms. And what Matt's been finding is that the similar thing is true with this thermal imaging. And thermal imaging is a quick and relatively easy process for the patients. They don't have to go into a large MRI scanner. It's a quicker process and probably overall would be a cheaper process. And he's been finding that the amount of heat produced in the orbit seems to correlate with the amount of disease activity. So that's quite an interesting thing, and maybe we'll find in the future that, as well as coming and having photographs taken of what their eyes are looking like, then our patients will have thermal images of how their eyes are doing. And Anna Mitchell, who's so ably organised the speakers for today, has herself been the recipient of one of these grants, and we're proud that that's been used for her Diago study that she's already talked about. So future projects for TEDct, we'd like to continue to hold our patient information meetings, and this is the first time that all the lectures from the patient information meeting are being videoed and will be uploaded to the website, which means that all the people who couldn't make it to Newcastle will still be able to see the interesting talks that we've had today. We want to keep updating our reading and resource lists. It's been interesting to hear about the dietary interventions that might be possible, and that might be something that our patients would like to read about and access via our website. We want to keep providing the bursaries and grants. And another new thing that we're looking at is more in the way of possibly social media or other ways of accessing our information. And we're hoping to design a thyroid eye disease app for patient use. It's, I think Lynn already mentioned the importance of patients keeping control of their own records, keeping information about what's been going on for themselves, and to help all the different healthcare professionals that they're dealing with. So one idea for this app is to provide things like places that patients can record symptom diaries, or to record all the different consultations they've had, the different blood results they might have had, to avoid getting things duplicated and to make it easier to communicate with different people that they see about what's been going on with their disease. So after we finish this talk and our panel discussion, I've actually got a questionnaire to give around to give some feedback about what sorts of things people would like to see in an app like that and whether they would use it. So other things that we might get involved in looking at is other ways of providing psychological support. We don't at the moment have any psychologists involved with TEDct, but I do know a couple of people who are interested in providing some help from that side of things. There's been talk about patient-led support networks or social media. The problem with any social media project is we need more help. We need more patient input and more people to moderate these things and to help to get involved. And I think the last thing I want to mention is the current NHS climate and the clinical commissioning of thyroid eye disease services. That I think, as we've alluded to, sometimes rare diseases can miss out because when budgets are being divided up for all the important things that need to be covered, a condition like thyroid eye disease that's not life-threatening and not common is not going to make it to the top of the priority list. And I don't know what other clinicians have been finding, but I've been finding it's more difficult to get things funded, particularly because the clinical commissioning groups who hold the purse strings are unwilling to fund treatments for what they consider to be an appearance-related concern. So whereas, for example, when I started in oculoplastics about 10 years ago, we could routinely go through that pathway that Gordon talked about of orbital decompression, strabismus surgery if necessary, and then lid surgery, and we would do blepharoplasties to debulk swollen lids routinely for anybody that wanted it. It's much more difficult to get funding for that, and I'm getting a lot of patients that I'm having to turn away because our local CCG won't fund it. So there may be a need for charities to get involved in a lobbying role for our purse string holders, to just remind them of the impact that thyroid eye disease has on people's lives and the importance of funding treatments for it. So, as I've alluded to with the app, there are similar things existing for some other conditions. There's a good one for another endocrinological condition, and so the things that we could maybe include on it would be things like contacts for your different healthcare professionals. Just one simple thing that is quite difficult to manage with thyroid eye disease patients is making sure that our clinic letters get copied to the relevant individuals. So from my clinic, patients may have, they don't all have primary care of their thyroid from the endocrinologist that's in the clinic. Some of them have been referred from endocrinologists in peripheral towns or in the other big teaching hospital in the north of Bristol. And so just making sure that the letter that I write goes to the right endocrinologist, the correct GP, that it goes to that everybody's kept in the loop if they're having radiotherapy, things like that is very important. The app could provide a way to update when we've had a new frequently asked question or a new piece of information that comes out. Provide a symptom tracker. It could be a way to plot things like clinical activity score for patients to see at a glance, and things that might help patients to see that they are improving even though it's a slow process, or other things like ways to feedback or advertise or join in on research groups. So just to finish with, the future of the charity, like all charities, depends on people volunteering and getting involved. So many thanks to everybody that's given up their time to contribute both today and to all the other activities that have gone on throughout the year. We've currently got around 275 members, and you know, if you're getting something out of being a member of the charity, please mention it to anybody else that you come across who you think that it might benefit. We're grateful for the donations we've received. We've had a grant to support the filming of this patient information meeting, and we couldn't survive without things like donations, grants and legacies. Thank you very much.